Hey, everybody, welcome to the Cliff Yates Show podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're talking about New York City. And why should we care? Should we care about what's going on in New York City with the mayoral race? I care about it, actually, because I don't want to live in New York City. At one time, I thought I did. I don't want to live in New York City, but I do love visiting Manhattan, especially during Christmas time. I got the comments open if you want to leave a comment or you have any ideas about why we should care about New York City. But I think the rest of the country really should pay attention to this mayoral race. Victor Davis Hanson said on YouTube today, right, for the first time in modern history or modern era, an unapologetic socialist, Zoran Mamdani, is probably going to be the mayor of New York City. And he's not just a liberal. He is not just on the left. He is really pandering to the radical left of the city. And I got a lot to say about that because let's go into a little bit of history of New York with me anyways. And if you have any memories of New York, please share them. But New York City has a special place in my heart. And I almost went to work there for the NYPD back in I almost went back. Let me give you the history. All right. I grew up in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. Now, come to find out, and a lot of people know this already, there are two New Yorks. There's an upstate New York, which is mostly conservative, and then there's New York City. I remember telling people when I was a kid in high school, I would say, I'm from New York. And, whereabouts? Rochester. Oh, that's upstate. We don't really recognize you as being from New York. So New Yorkers really had an attitude about people in upstate. And recently, I've talked to a lot of people in upstate, and they have an attitude about New York City people. And so there is a big separation between New York City and upstate New York people. But myself, growing up in the outskirts of Rochester in a really rural area of upstate New York, out in the country, and working there as a deputy sheriff in the quiet nights of Livingston County, going sometimes a couple hours without seeing another car in midwinter. I had a longing from watching movies and reading books to I've talked about this before, going to New York City and living in New York City, going to New York City Police Department, NYPD, seeing these movies about the NYPD and Serpico and such. And so I wanted to go to New York City. But the desire really came to, I wanted to go to a large metropolitan police department from my little sheriff's department in upstate New York, which we only had 20 deputy sheriffs. We only had 60,000 in the population of the whole county. The little town where I grew up, Caledonia, New York, probably 3,000 was the max population. We don't even have a street light there. Can you believe that? I'd like to say we have one street light. We don't even have one. No street lights in Caledonia, New York. But it is a beautiful community. I'll give it that. But I had a longing to go to a metropolitan law enforcement agency from my Livingston County Sheriff Department, where I worked for 5 years. And in high school, I started doing my stand-up comedy, and I was in a couple plays. And so I always had a desire to also go to New York City and experience a Broadway show and just be where the action is. And so in and none of my friends growing up, high school, nobody ever said, hey, let's go to New York City for the weekend. I never went to New York City. Not until I had been with the Sheriff's Department for almost 5 years. So I'm 26 years old. I'm only 5-hour drive away from New York City. Never been. No one that I knew in town ever wanted to go to New York City. No relatives ever wanted to go. And I really didn't have a desire until later, really, when I was in my 20s and was thinking about going to a large metropolitan police department. New York City was my number one choice. But since I wanted to go badly, I was applying at Houston Police, Dallas, Fort Lauderdale, of course, and Los Angeles PD and LA County Sheriff, which is where I ended up for 30 years. But I just remember 1982. It might have been the beginning of 83. Going to New York City with my mom and my aunt for the first time, my first trip to New York City with my mom and my aunt to take the New York City police test on Lexington Street in in Manhattan, Norman Thomas High School. And 1983 beginning, I would have to say it was. Yes. And went to, and New York at that time, 1982, 83, it was not a good place to be. Crime was crazy. Manhattan, Times Square, not safe. They had, back then, they had the squeegee guys, right? So they would come out and really intimidate you into giving them money to wash your windshield. And if you didn't, they might crack your windshield with that squeegee and break it, then just run away into traffic. So you were kind of held hostage if you were stuck in traffic. And I remember being on the subway, right? My mom, my aunt, and I went down to Macy's on the subway. And not afraid, nothing. I don't know. We were probably too stupid to be fearful. We probably should have been afraid, but we weren't afraid. Going down to Macy's, and I just remember at that time, I guess maybe you still can, but people could go from car to car, right? They could open up those doors and go to the next car. I just remember a guy coming through the car, just announcing, get your money out, I've got AIDS, and you don't want it, I'm dying, get your money out. And then he would come around. I just remember we didn't make eye contact, we didn't give him any money. And then he just went on to the next car. But I remember that kind of thing happening a couple times while we were there, going to and from the places like Macy's. But I was excited to be there in New York City. My mom enjoyed it. My aunt enjoyed being in Macy's. And it was just, we had a great time. And I think it was January-ish. It was, I'm just trying to think because I know it was still winter time. We didn't drive or take the plane. We took a train. It was about a 6-hour train ride down to New York City. We enjoyed ourselves on the train. My mom and aunt were laughing. My mom always makes fun and says, "Oh, you were embarrassed to be with us. You pretended not to know us." I probably did at the time, but now I wouldn't care. But that was the first trip to New York City. Loved it. Grand Central Station, homeless everywhere, dirty. Times Square, dirty. Peep shows, not clean, probably not safe at all. Strip clubs everywhere. Prostitutes, and just an exciting place to be. I was looking forward to going to the NYPD. Took my written test, and then by the time I even got my results, I was already hired December of 83 at the LA County Sheriff's Department. So, and I don't think I applied there until maybe May. Yeah, and then so within about 6-7 months, I was hired. Hadn't even got my results back from NYPD. Finally got my results, and I was on band 3. And actually, while I was in the jail for the LA County Sheriff's Department, so it was about 2 years later, they notified me that they were coming into band 3. And so there was a chance for me to be put back on the list. I actually flew back out to New York City. And I want to say that was probably, had to be 85 or 6. Yeah, I think 85 or 6. And when I was there, I actually saw a Broadway show. I actually ended up, a guy at the Academy talked me out of putting my name back on the list. He told me to stay in LA. You don't want to do this. And so I think in the end, I'd say in the end, it probably saved my life because there's no doubt if I had put my name back on the list and I got hired, I would have definitely, there's no way I would have wanted to work anywhere else but Manhattan. 9/11 would have occurred and I would have been probably killed in 9/11. So once again, God probably saved my life. And so I stayed in Los Angeles. But I remember 85, 86. Before I went to patrol, which was 87 in LA County, so I know I went back there to put my name on the list. And I saw a Broadway show. Oh my goodness, it was Blood Brothers. Yeah, and Petula Clark was in it. And the Blood Brothers were played by the Cassidy brothers. David Cassidy and Sean Cassidy, right? David Cassidy from the Partridge Family and Sean Cassidy, Sean is still alive. David had passed away. But that was really my first Broadway show by myself. Then I meet my wife, future wife, And we start going to New York together in 96. Weren't married yet. 96, we go to New York City together. First time. And my wife, future wife, ends up loving New York City. She's Cuban. She loves the fast pace. She loves the energy. She's really into it. I'm like, wow, perfect match. Wow, you love New York. There's none. My circle of friends really had wanted nothing to do with New York City. So then my future wife loves New York City. And the first Broadway show we saw, Broadway musical, 96, I believe it was 96, was, oh my goodness, Rent. It was Rent. With Taye Diggs. The original cast was Taye Diggs and Rosario Dawson, two of the most famous people in the original cast. 96 we see. And man, I had already fallen in love with Broadway shows when I saw the Blood Brothers. I mean, something about being on Broadway in a show. I just remember being emotional about it. I think maybe in a past life or something. Not that I believe in that, but some part of my soul is connected to Broadway, right? Because I would become emotional just being in the theater, almost teary-eyed, just enjoying every single bit about Broadway, seeing a Broadway show, just even intermission, going outside and just the taxis and the horns honking and the people playing the clarinet or the saxophone with the saxophone case open, people throwing their money in, and then the horn going off to go back inside the theater. I love everything about it. And so, I mean, if you've been in New York and you love that kind of energy, and we just love going for the past 30 years. We only missed 2 years. And 2 years we've missed. COVID, 2001 we missed. And then there was one other year that we missed. And we went right away after 9/11. When September 11th happens, we were in Manhattan in January. And because Giuliani was offering a deal at the Waldorf Astoria, and I always wanted to stay at the Waldorf Astoria. So we ended up going right away in 2002. Yeah, and that's when we got married in 2002. And we just loved New York. Now, of course, I had gone, as I said before, how crappy it was in 82. Now, by the time we go into 96, and Giuliani had cleaned up New York, broken window theory and everything, and now New York City was beautiful. When I say beautiful, I mean, sometimes you still had garbage piling up. Listen, Times Square was beautiful. It was safe. My wife and I, we've taken the subway 1, 2 o'clock in the morning from going from Times Square back up to the Hilton at 6th Avenue and 53rd Street. That's where our timeshare is. And never been afraid or fearful that anything bad was going to happen. So a couple of times it was sketchy coming. A couple of times we took the train, we took the subway from JFK Airport into Manhattan. And going through Queens, we had a couple sketchy people on the subway, for sure. I don't know. I don't want to say I was concerned, but I was paying attention to my surroundings. That's for sure. But, man, just love New York City, going there. And so for the past 30 years, my wife and I have gone to Manhattan. 2 years ago, we went twice. We went during Christmas, and then we went again in New York for New Year's. And I'll tell you, it was just a great time. We were a little concerned because of what was going on politically and what everybody was saying about New York. But they had really flooded Manhattan with extra police. So definitely they were really concentrating on making sure that the touristy areas of Manhattan was safe, or at least appeared to be safe, because there were police officers almost on every block in Manhattan. But our timeshare is just in a perfect spot in Manhattan, 6th and 53rd Street. So we're definitely within walking distance of the theater district. Every theater, definitely, within a 10 to 15 minute walk. There are a couple of theaters. I guess you could take the subways if you don't want to do the 15-minute walk. If your lady has high heels on for the theater, then you might want to take an Uber. We never hardly ever took a taxi, every once in a great while with bad weather, but mostly we took the subway or we just walked to the theater. Definitely, well, we're just a couple blocks away from Rockefeller Center and like 3 blocks from Central Park. And so everything's within walking distance. You can't get lost in Manhattan. You cannot get lost in Manhattan. It is definitely an island. And so your main area, so listen, this is where it goes. Basically, it's First Avenue over to like 11th Avenue. So, you know, you got the Hudson River on one side, you got the East River on the other side. And so you just have, that's how wide it is, just from First Avenue to 11th. I think it's 11th Avenue. So all the avenues run north and south, and all the streets run east and west, starting at Lower Manhattan, right? First Street, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and it just keeps going up until, you know, you get to 34th Street. Remember the movie Miracle on 34th Street? Well, that's where Macy's is. All right, then you keep going up 35th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 40. Now you're into the theater district for the next, 7 or 8 blocks till 48th, 49th Street, Times Square. Right, then you got 50th, 51st, all the way up to 57th, and now 59th is Central Park. That's where Central Park starts, and then you got Central Park East and Central Park West on each side of Central Park. And so and when you're on the subways, if you are going from like 50th Street down to 2nd Street, you would take a downtown train. That's because you're going downtown, down in numbers. And if you were on, say, 5th Street, then you would take, and you're going to 53rd Street back up to the Hilton, then you would take an uptown train. Now, the 1, 2, 3, 4, remember that movie, Pelham 1, 2, 3? Yeah, so that's the red. So that line runs from, like 59th Street, but it basically runs along the western half of Manhattan, of the island. So then on the central, you got the BDQM, the orange line there is running kind of central. Then the green is the 4, 5, and 6. And then you got 7th, and maybe L goes from east to west. There's a couple lines that go across that way. But it's easy to learn the subway system, and then unless you make the mistake of getting on an express, all the lines are going to stop at during regular business hours. They're going to stop at all the stops there in Manhattan, and so you cannot get lost. And if you do, you just get off, get on the train, and go back the other direction. It's kind of exciting. But New York City is, so we got this socialist, and I don't think. Cuomo is not going to get elected again after all the shenanigans that went on during COVID of redirecting elderly people to the nursing homes. It ends up a lot of people died, and there's a lot of controversy. No one wants Cuomo back in there. And now I want Curtis Sliwa. I mean, he's a law and order guy. You need law and order in New York City. You really do. And he's a law and order guy. He knows New York. Now, back in the 70s, the late 70s, right around 82, when I was going down there and crime was bad, Curtis Sliwa, he created the Guardian Angels. And that's why sometimes you'll see it. They're still there today, and they have the red berets. Sometimes Curtis will wear the red berets. And they would ride the subways and walk the streets like a neighborhood watch. And they provided protection, and they were serving the community. The Guardian, I think most of them were martial arts guys and gals, and the Guardian Angels. Sliwa was famous for that. Matter of fact, Sliwa was shot, I believe, 5 times by John Gotti Jr., I believe. But I got a video here of Curtis Sliwa talking about his mayoral candidacy. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. And listen, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. And there it is, my subscribe button. We're a community of progress here. We're building a family up. So subscribe. And if you're listening on one of the podcast platforms in the auditory only, listen, when you're done, later on, go on over to YouTube and check out the video portion of this. All right, let's go. Let's see what Curtis Sliwa had to say in this interview. And
do you have a car? And do you have a clean driving record?
Let me mute that because I want to go right to this.
Trademark red beret. Curtis Sliwa wants to be the first Republican to move into Gracie Mansion since Rudy Giuliani. The Point starts right now. And there's big news. The Partnership for New York City, Kathy Wild, has met with you, and she wants to have you meet with members of the business community. Why now? They didn't do it last time.
I think because they put all their chips on the USS Andrew Cuomo, and it sunk outside the Hamptons. And so they're on the rebound. They went to Eric Adams. They realized, oh, he's mired in a sea of corruption. So I think because I'm the Republican candidate, they've said, well, he's business friendly. He wants to slash taxes. He wants to keep us here instead of chase us out, which is what has been happening. And I think it's time that they at least listen to me, because you talk about law and order and quality of life. If you don't have it, the corporations will pick up and leave, as they've already been doing in the last 2 years of Eric Adams.
So let's talk about taxes. How are you going to, what taxes would you slash?
Well, look at the corporate tax rate. It's like 17.4% between the city and the state, and the city gets 9% of it. Miami, 5.5%. So if you're a business person.
So you want to slash corporate taxes?
Oh, I have to. And you got to look.
Oh, come on. So you want to slash corporate taxes. What the hell do you think? Of course, 17.4 state, 9% to the city of New York. Corporate taxes. Why would these businesses not move to Florida? Florida, Miami, 5.5 corporate taxes, 5% tax. Why wouldn't you move your corporation to Florida? It's like California. And do you know what I mean? I retired there. They do nothing to keep the retirees there. I really retired with my full pension, my full paycheck. You'd think California want to keep that money there in California, but no. So why wouldn't I move to Florida? No state income tax. I automatically got an $800 a month raise, and it puts it right in my pocket. Well, of course I would want to move to Florida or any state that was no state income tax. So look what Curtis wants to slash corporate taxes. 17.4% corporate tax in New York City between state, and the city gets 9% of that. We're 5.5 in Miami. Corporate tax. If you're a business and you want to survive and thrive, of course, you'd want to move. Stand by, because, you know, a lot of businesses and people have already moved out of New York City and have gone to Florida. I mean, this Mandami guy, well, let's hear more of what Curtis Sliwa has to say.
Look at some of the individual taxes, because SALT, remember, used to give you a return on the taxes you paid locally and statewide.
But now it's been reinstated.
Yeah, to a degree. But again, you want to be able to keep people, especially the millenniums. Many of them are in the corporate sector, so they become the CPAs. They become the financial analysts. They are the attorneys. They've gone to school. They're getting crushed by student loans. That's the other thing that I'm focused on. The crushing student loans. Then they don't have enough money to pay rent. They're angry. That's why Zohran Mamdani has resonated with them. And unfortunately, Cuomo and Eric Adams have no answers for that.
What about property taxes?
Property taxes in the outer boroughs. Can you imagine this? You're paying more in property taxes, small business owners, mid-sized business owners. And then you say to yourself, if you're a homeowner, 1, 2 families, why am I paying more property taxes here in, let's say, the South Shore, Staten Island, or out in the Rockaways in Queens than they're paying in Park Slope or Brooklyn Heights?
Property taxes. You know, we have a vacation home in upstate New York, Thousand Islands. It is a seasonal home. We only use it 3 months out of the year, 4 months. Okay, 4 months. June, July, August, September. Property taxes are about $6,000 a year. That's right. $4,000 property, $2,000 school tax. We don't have any kids in New York State. We're paying $2,000 school tax. Then regular property tax, $4,000. We're paying more for the vacation home than we do for the condo on the beach in Florida. Property taxes, that's a big deal. And look at this guy, Curtis Sliwa. You know, he's energetic. He knows New York. He's been there all his life. He's really served well. He supports the police. Obviously, he's law and order guy. He knows politics. You know what I mean? He can string a sentence together without sounding like an idiot. He knows what's going on. He's been New York his whole life. Let's hear more about Curtis Sliwa.
Millions of dollars of assessment in these brownstones.
But how do you do it? I mean, Bill de Blasio promised to do it. In 8 years, he did nothing. How would you do it, and what would make a difference?
Bill de Blasio, who Zoran Mandami wants to model his administration after, he thought he was the best mayor, did nothing about nothing. Remember the horse-drawn carriages? I'm going to eliminate them. This mayor will, because I'm running on a protect the animals line.
You're going to eliminate the horse-drawn carriages?
Eliminate the horse-drawn carriages.
People love them.
I don't know who loves them because they've eliminated them in almost every other city around the world. You replace them with mechanized carriages. The drivers still have a job. And more importantly, no-kill shelters, and we're going to put animal abusers in jail. First ever, Marcia Kramer, the independent line, protect animals, in addition to me being the Republican.
All right, so let's go back to how you're going to woo the business leaders. You said that you want to cut taxes.
Oh, I got to share this with my good friend, Victoria Redstall. No-kill shelters he wants. No-kill shelters. He wants to protect the horses. Hey, create some motorized electric carriages. People will still love it. You'll still have the drivers, make a living. I agree with it. You know, sometimes it looks like these horses are, I don't know, they don't look like they're really enjoying their lives. It's not that they're being abused, but sometimes it looks that way. If you go there in the dead of winter and you see these horses, that's up for argument. But I think Curtis Sliwa has a lot of great ideas, and I like the guy. Let's listen to one more minute of Curtis Sliwa running for mayor of New York City.
You said that you also say you want to cut bureaucracy. What does that mean? It sounds an awful lot like President Trump, and that scares people.
Well, you have to show what you're going to do, not just use the euphemisms. First off, you've got to have law and order, because you could cut people's taxes. You can make it more corporate friendly. They're not going to stay.
So you're not cutting the police department?
No, I'm going to add 7,000 cops. And guess who I am taxing? Jimmy Dole in Madison Square Garden. You owe $43 million in property tax a year. He's had a sweetheart deal.
Well, you said
he's going to add 7,000 coppers to the NYPD. Get Curtis Sliwa in there. I'm a law and order guy. I want law and order in New York City, not because I'm going to live there, but because I visit there. I want to be safe when I visit there. I'm going to be going again this Christmas season because I love to see the tree, Rockefeller Center, Broadway shows during Christmas time. It's a wonderful time of year. It's a great time of year to visit New York, and it should be safe, and it should be a beacon of light to the rest of the world because it really represents America. I mean, we're going to talk about that, as a matter of fact. I know I got some other slides here, Mr. Producer, who is me alone. I need to hire some people. Look at that. That's me and my wife. If you're watching on YouTube, 1999. I love this picture. We're over at the Liberty Island for the Statue of Liberty, but in the background you can see the Twin Towers, 1999. And we had planned, in 2000, we decided, hey, next year, let's go to that restaurant on the top of the Twin Towers. We had never been to the Twin Towers. And then we never got to go. We never got to go to that restaurant. 2000, we planned on it. 2001 was 9/11. But there we are in 1999. And we purposely took that picture with Manhattan in there right behind us with the Twin Towers right there. Great memory that is, that picture, 1999. And there we are, I think around 2017. Here's a picture I grabbed off my Facebook page here. Great to report that we saw no protesters, and everyone where we were at Times Square for 10 hours. Everyone was supporting the NYPD, and officers were awesome. There we are with a couple officers. That was on our bucket list, more my wife's than mine. I really didn't need to be there for New Year's Eve. So let me give you a heads up if you want to go. Really, you have to go into these corrals. Now, if you're a police officer, you probably don't have to. We could have badged our way somewhere probably closer. My stepson did later, like the next year. He didn't do what we did. We went by the rules, and so we went into the corrals around 2 p.m. So 2 p.m. we load in, and then 10 hours you're there until the ball drops. 10 hours. Can't leave. Can't go to the bathroom. Can't do anything. Now, we ended up leaving and going to the bathroom because we badged one of the officers and says, we can't leave, right, to go to the bathroom. Well, he goes, you guys can because you're retired police. What? Okay, so we did. Yeah, we took advantage. We had police privilege, but it was an amazing experience, I'm telling you. But I'll tell you, my back, after 10 hours of standing, I just stepped off a little curb and I almost went to my knees. Wow, it was tough. But it was a great experience. There we are. As a matter of fact, you can see part of the sign back there behind us, Caroline's on Broadway, a famous comedy club, which is now closed. So there we are, I think around 48th or 9th Street there, and we had a good view of the ball and being lowered. It was a really exciting time. Everybody there. We met people actually from Laverne, where we were living at the time. So we actually, they were in the next corral over, but we got people yelling back and forth to each other, and everybody was friendly. Everybody was so happy to be there for New Year's. Everybody's in a good mood. It was really joyful. All these old-time coppers, usually a lot of the detectives are working the Times Square job as overtime. And so it was really a good experience. So New Year's Eve in Manhattan, it is a great experience. So if you want to do it, I say do it. Why not? And there we are, of course. I mean, Christmas time, Rockefeller Center. There's my wife and I. Big smiles, of course, all the way around, everybody. Big smiles always. Visiting New York during Christmas time. Just a special time. And then we started bringing my mom there. And, we started going there in 96, as I said. And then I was working in the Men's Central Jail. And everybody always said, oh, we'd love to go to New York. Well, come with us. Come with us. We'll show you around and you'll have a great time. I always wanted to go to New York. Well, why don't you go next year? Well, not this year. Finally we met a couple. I met a couple in the jail. Husband and wife team working Men's Central Jail. Ray and Linda. And they says, hey, we'll go to New York with you. And that, in fact, they did. And we went together probably 2000, I think like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 14. We went for like 6, 7 years in a row together. And they got married in New York City together at the Marriage Bureau in downtown, Midtown Manhattan. And Alba and I were the witnesses. Pretty amazing, exciting time. So for probably 4 or 5 years after that, we always went, I think it's December 15th is their anniversary. So we always went back to New York on their anniversary. And we all went together as a group. And then we would add people to the group. Sometimes we had 6, 7 people in our group. And we just had an awesome time there in New York City. It was just fantastic. I think I had another thing. I just have this slide, right? Because some of the important, the important things when I think, because culturally, I know my wife and I, we always walk in Central Park past this statue of Jose Marti on a horse, which was kind of a famous expatriate guy from Cuba. And he spent a lot of time in New York City. So New York, just amazing. When you think about New York, is a very important hub of culture for America. And the landmarks that inspire not just America, but they inspire the whole world. And some of these great sites of New York City that I just made a list of them that you might want to include in your podcast, Cliff. This was AI told me. The Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom and democracy. This iconic statue has welcomed the millions of immigrants arriving by sea. I mean, that's something you really need to visit, Liberty Island and the Statue of Liberty, and you can see where everybody first came to America, see where they signed their names, and it's quite a sight. Statue of Liberty is quite a sight from Manhattan, but from the Statue of Liberty, the island of Manhattan is quite a sight too. Now, Central Park, an urban oasis offering a beautiful escape from the city hustle. It's a place for relaxation, recreation, and you can't imagine how big New York City is. There's so many sites within New York City's Central Park that I can't even think of them right now. I'm thinking of the Dakota building, which borders Central Park, where John Lennon was shot, and there's actually a mosaic. It says "Imagine," after his famous song "Imagine All the People," and so there's a big "Imagine" tiling thing in Central Park, kind of near the Dakota where John Lennon was shot. But then, boy, it's just an amazing thing to see. And you've seen, Central Park in so many movies, and it's just amazing to be there. And it's kind of cool that you can, you're in the hustle and bustle of all the buildings of New York, and then you walk 5-10 minutes, and then you're in an oasis in the middle of Manhattan, of trees and water and ducks and, just the squirrels and, ballparks and horse-drawn carriages. And it's kind of an amazing place right within the center part of Manhattan. It is wonderful, really. Times Square, known as the crossroads of the world. Its bright lights and bustling energy make it a cultural and commercial hub. Times Square is really amazing, where you see I should have had a picture of all the neon signs that have just been upgraded throughout the years, and it's bright as day in Times Square all night long. And you see all of the shows advertised, the Broadway show, musicals, and the big billboards, the electronic billboards of advertising, and advertising all the shows and advertising all things from all over the world. And it's just an amazing place right there in Times Square. There's always people there performing, and street performers, street vendors, and then they have what they call a TKS booth. It's a red booth, and what happens there is, and this is where you really want to go get your show tickets, unless there's some really big show you want to see on Broadway where they're not discounted. Like for about 8 years, we couldn't get tickets to The Lion King. Well, we could have got tickets, but you couldn't get the discount tickets. So when you go to the TKS booth, every day at 3 o'clock, they release tickets that weren't sold through the theater or theater brokers, ticket brokers. And a lot of times they are fantastic seats. And you get them for like $100 a piece. And these seats are normally like $300 a piece. So you get them for a third of the price. And I mean, a lot of times it's in the first 5-6 rows. I've been third row center before with these tickets. It's just amazing. They'll tell you right where the tickets are. They'll give you some choices too. I got these. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. They're all great tickets. And so you have to be down there now to wait in line. Now, sometimes the line, now here's a little secret that we didn't find out for quite a while, for a couple of years. So you wait in line, because we would go, we're there 4 or 5 nights. We saw a Broadway show every night. And then on a weekend, if there was a matinee, we'd see the matinee. Then we saw a show that night. But a secret that we didn't know was you buy your tickets at TKS booth, right? They release the tickets 3 p.m. for shows that evening. Now, the next day, you take your ticket stub back to the TKS booth. But there's a line specifically for ticket holders. So now you got a line that goes around the block for the regular people buying tickets. And now you got the front of the line, and there's never more than like 3 people in the line, maybe 0. And all you do is show your tickets from the previous. You just need tickets from the previous 5 days. And they check your ticket stubs, and then otherwise you're right in line. And then you go right up. Waiting time is like, I've never waited in that line for more than 5 minutes. As opposed to initially when you get there, when you first have to wait for that first show, it could be an hour and a half, right? 2 hours, right? You get there at 3, it could be 4:30, 5 o'clock before you got your tickets. Now you got to head back to the hotel, shower, shave, dress, suit on, get ready, maybe to have a little dinner or maybe something to eat at the hotel before you head out to the show, which might be a 7:30 show, not an 8 o'clock show. But definitely Times Square, exciting, great place right there in the heart of the theater district. And obviously Broadway, the heart of the American theater industry, offering world-class performances that attract audiences from around the globe. And that is true. You meet people in line from all over the world when you're buying your Broadway tickets. The Empire State Building, my God, that is something it's a must. We haven't done it in 5 or 6 years. Kind of pain in the ass waiting in line, but it's well worth it on a clear day. Now, you got to be careful. If it's a cloudy day, you get to the top. You're not actually at the top. You're like 5 or 6 floors from the actual top. But if it's a cloudy day, you can't see crap. And then if you waited in line a long time, you want to be able to see, far and wide from the top of the Empire State Building. It's an architectural marvel with breathtaking views of the city. It's a symbol of New York's ambition and innovation. It's quite an attraction. The Brooklyn Bridge is pretty amazing too. There's actually a little place called the Seaport, and it overlooks the bridge, and you can have dinner there and drinks, and it's got floor-to-ceiling windows, and it's quite a place. Brooklyn's quite a place to visit too. You just take the subway over to Brooklyn, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and you're there, and you can walk around Brooklyn. Brooklyn Bridge, an engineering feat of its time. The bridge connects Manhattan, of course, and Brooklyn, and offers stunning views of the skyline of Manhattan. So that's why you want to go to Brooklyn, because you want to see that skyline. And there's a couple rooftop bars in Brooklyn. You'd be outside and having a cocktail and overlooking Manhattan skyline. Pretty romantic, pretty amazing place. Metropolitan Museum of Art is amazing. There's always some kind of new display that's going on there. It's one of the largest and most prestigious art museums in the world, housing a vast collection of art spanning centuries. Now, we got the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, a poignant tribute to the victims of the September 11th attacks. It serves as a reminder of resilience and unity. This is something quite amazing to see when you see the footprints of the two towers and the water crashing over the sides, and you got all the names of everyone who died there. That outside memorial is quite moving when you're there. It touches your heart. I'm trying to explain it. You'd have to be there to experience it. Now, the museum down below, you actually go down below, and then you actually see and walk on the original steps that were below the Twin Towers. And you're going to be in tears at some point during the visit of the museum. So in the museum down below, you see the steps. The actual steps are still in place. And then you've got actual fire trucks, burned fire trucks, police cars. And you got all sorts of twisted metal that was taken from the original ground view of, oh my goodness, right after the attack. It's very touching. And then there's you watch films of people actually jumping out of windows, and you're going to cry. You're going to cry. It's something down in the museum is going to touch you, or else you're heartless, because each time we've gone down, I think we've gone down twice now, and it is just and very respectful. If you're a first responder, we had our badges. You go into a first responder line, and that was the first couple of years after it was open. And we did go again, and then we didn't need to do that because it wasn't as crowded as when it first opened. But the 9/11 Memorial outside and the museum down below is a must-see in New York. I mean, that is it's very touching. The High Line is an innovative urban park built on a historic freight rail line elevated above the streets of Manhattan West Side. We haven't gone on the High Line yet. I got to do that this year. It's like a walking park. It's like elevated rail line, and the rail line's not there anymore, and they made it a park. And it's called the High Line. And I looked it up a couple times, and we've gone by it in the subway. I know it was nearby, but we never ended up there. I mean, Wall Street's a must-see, the financial heart of the U.S., influencing global markets and the economic trends. You got to see the bull on on Wall Street. You got to see Wall Street. Wall Street is something to see, really, walking around. Yeah, I mean, just, and if you've seen Law and Order, SVU, you got to go see, City Hall. And yeah, it's pretty, the architecture of New York City is just amazing. And I'll tell you, we took the kids there, they have fond memories. And I'll tell you, at the time, we took them there a couple of times, and I think the first time they really didn't enjoy it that much. They were really young. I want to think my youngest stepson, I think, was around 7 or 8. So the older ones were 11, maybe in 13. And so then we did go again later, but and I think the second visit they did enjoy. They loved going to FEO Schwartz and seeing the toys, and they loved being at Central Park. And I'm glad the one time we went with them, there was a a small snowstorm, enough so that we could have snowball fights in Central Park. And they really loved that. And and then there's the Soho district, right, south of Houston Street. Then there's Canal Street. Then there's Little Italy, which Little Italy now has really been encroached by Chinatown. And Little Italy is really, it's down to one street. I can't think of the name of the street now, but it's really only down to one small street. Just a small portion of Little Italy remains, but it's a must-see. And, it's a must-see. You got to see New York. So I think that's why everybody, that we should all care about the New York City mayoral race. I just think the wrong leadership in there is going to put it back many years. It could destroy New York altogether. With what this socialist wants to do, creating government-run stores and wiping out the mom-and-pop stores around Manhattan. I mean, some of these neighborhood businesses, and I don't know. That's where our timeshare is. So I mean, we have a vested interest that New York remain kind of what it is, and we definitely want to see law and order back in New York City. And there's other sites that I'm not thinking about. When you go Christmas time, I mean, if you get a chance, go visit New York City, go visit Manhattan. And we fly into JFK, and from JFK to Midtown, you could actually take a train, but it takes about an hour plus. But a taxi ride is about $80 with tips. So figure $100 from JFK into Manhattan, and then probably about the same going from Manhattan back to JFK. And it's about an hour. It's a good hour from the airport into Manhattan, if everything's moving good. If there's problems, could be 2 hours. But most of the time, it's just 1 hour, and you kind of can time it, when you fly into New York. If you fly in, if you get into JFK, you're right around 10, 11 a.m., that's perfect. Right? By the time you get into your taxi, now you're not into the rush hour traffic, right? If you're like 1, 2 p.m., before 2 p.m., right? Then you get into your hotel, check-in time's usually 4, but, a lot of times if it's available and you've come in, not on a weekend, you can check into your hotel early and get started, exploring New York City. Like I said earlier, you can't get lost in Manhattan. All the avenues run north and south, and all the streets run east and west, uptown, downtown. You're going to love it. You're going to love New York. I think Alva and I have seen, over our 30 years, we've definitely seen probably 75 or 80 Broadway shows. And like I said, many times we've seen 2 in one day. If it's on a weekend and there's a matinee, then we go again that night. Especially when there's good shows running. So New York City, we got to pay attention. I don't think most of my friends, as I said, neighbors and people that I associate with, they want nothing to do with New York City. They don't want to go to New York City. My wife and I, we've always loved it. We've enjoyed going. We had a couple couples from California that we would go regularly. It's fun to go as a group. Believe me, it is really a lot of fun. And it's really a lot of fun when you get to show a new couple around that really don't know their way around New York, so you can kind of acclimate them. And it's just fun to see them a year later coming by themselves, and they want to they know their way around, and they can use the subway, and they're very, they're brave with no fear, and they go for it. And in the subways now, you used to have to buy, you could buy a Metro card, and you could load it up, right? And then if you take a Metro card and you load it up, then you can use it and pass it back to your wife. But if you buy one of those, you can buy like a 3-day unlimited, which is the way to go because it adds up quick. You're going up and down. Next thing you know, you might as well get the unlimited. It's not that much. It was like $50, $60 for 3 days. Unlimited. Now that one you can't hand over to your wife. So, it's better to have 2 unlimiteds. Take $100. You're going to be using the subway. If you're going to be there for 3 or 4 days, well worth it. Then you don't have to worry about it. But now, scratch that because you don't have to do that anymore. Because now, instead of buying a Metro tap card, now you can just tap your credit card. Before you get on the subway, you just tap, boop, opens up, and then you can go. All right, there's my cat telling me it's time to end this episode. Everybody, that's New York City. I think we should care. I think it's going to be a big deal if this socialist gets in. Oh, man, it's going to be a shit show, I'm sure. I'd like to see Curtis Lewa get in. Law and order guy. I mean, he's conservative, Republican, backs the police, going to make New York City safe. He's going to be good for businesses. He's going to be good for people visiting. He's going to be good for people who want to live in New York. And it's going to be good all the way around if Curtis Lewa gets in. He is a courageous warrior, shot 5 times. He said when he was shot by, I think it was John Gotti Jr., he said, you know what, I didn't need police protection. He goes, now I need police protection for my wife who's got so many death threats. It's a different time, ladies and gentlemen. We need law and order back in the country and in New York City. All right, everybody, that's the end of this episode. We have to care about what happens in New York City because as New York City goes, the country goes and the world goes. It is a beacon of light for the world, and let's pay attention to what's going on there. All right, I love you. I will see you in the next episode of The Cliff Yates Show.